Welcome back. We are now just a few weeks away from the 2021 primary election, taking place on June 22nd here in New York City. There are a lot of open seats across the city and a lot to find out about this important race. AARP is providing access to information about the races in your neighborhood. Joining us now to share more about the upcoming primary election is Beth Finkel, State Director of AARP NY. Welcome, Beth. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. It's a big election.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We have a lot of important information to discuss. No, so thank you. So as we shared, June 22nd is primary election day. Can you share why this election is so important for New York City?
It's hugely important. After this election, we are going to have almost a whole new government in New York City. Mayor, controller, public advocate, and in the city council, 75% of the seats on the New York City Council will be new council members. So this is such a wonderful opportunity for all New Yorkers to get out and vote and to share what's most important to them. The candidates you choose will reflect what's most important to you as you vote. And as I say that, I have to say this part a little sadly. We did some research on the last time there was an open mayoral primary vote in New York, which was back in 2013. That's when de Blasio won the primary.
Right.
And we did some research. Who voted in that election? 75% of the people who voted in that election were 50 years or older, 75%. That's why the information that we share on what 50 plus voters think, and by the way, there are 750,000 AARP members in the 5 boroughs, their vote really counts. That's why we're calling this 50 plus voters count, because they really do. They are the most reliable segment.
Oh, absolutely. 75% is a huge percentage of our voters here in New York City in particular. So thank you for sharing that, Beth. Can we just go back to what the races are in this election? So you did mention a few of them. Can we go through the entire list just so that our viewers are familiar with what races we're going to be about?
Sure. You've got the mayor. You've got the controller. You've got the public advocate. You also have the Manhattan DA, but that won't be in the Bronx. That will only be for Manhattanites. And as I said before, 75% of the city council races will not be incumbents. They'll be brand new people. So that's really important. The direction of New York City is really at a crucial point.
Right. And when we're considering, some of the challenges that 50 plus voters face, what are those challenges, especially during this pandemic, Beth?
Well, I think many of us are seeing a lot of ageism on the rise. And during the pandemic, when so many people lost their jobs or were scaled back, the 50 plus felt it in a very significant way. And we know that when the 50 plus lose their jobs, it's much harder for them to get back into the workplace. Another area of concern is isolation. I think all of us have looked at our friends and our neighbors and loved ones and the terrible burden of isolation that was on them because of the pandemic. And finally, food insecurity. And again, I think we all know about this. People in the Bronx know about this, that, people were really struggling to keep food on the table. And the city put up a valiant effort, and local community groups were just amazing at getting the food out. But still, people really struggled with food insecurity.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of movements have been happening, to help the community with food insecurity. And, it's something that has been exacerbated during the pandemic, something that our communities were already faced with prior. So I do understand that AARP did conduct a survey to collect some of the issues that voters 50 plus are concerned about in upcoming elections. Can you share those with us, Beth?
Sure. I'm not going to give you Bronx specific numbers, although we had New York City numbers. This is BronxNet. We want to give you the Bronx numbers.
Thank you.
So crime, 71% of people in the Bronx that we polled of 50 plus voters said they were very worried about crime. Number one issue. Number two issue, affordable housing. Again, not surprising at all. Number three was just affordability in general. And I think a lot of New Yorkers, actually, I think a lot of Americans are starting to worry about affordability in general. And then finally, disparities, racial and ethnic disparities. 59% of Bronx voters, 50 plus, said that they were very concerned about that. I would also, just one more thing I want to say, we looked at who was ahead in the race, and we looked at rankings, and of course this was a month or 6 weeks ago. And actually, it's interesting, the New York Times today had in it that our poll was one of the few independent, reliable polls that came out. We did it with Siena, which is a really well-known polling organization. But the point I want to make about this is, we're talking about the issues. Not everybody has made up their mind who they plan to vote for mayor. And I think it's really important. From our data, 26% of Democrats are still undecided, and 44% of Republicans are undecided about who they're going to vote for in the mayoral primaries. That's really important. And I think the candidates know that. And that's why they're out there hitting the pavement right now. So, and, people sometimes change their minds too. New things come to light. So, it's an important time.
Yes, and it's very important to note that these races are very packed. The mayoral race started with over 30 candidates, and now we've kind of narrowed it down a bit. But there are a lot of candidates to learn about, and I want to share with our viewers that AARP is seeking to bridge the voter education and information gap. Beth, can you share some of those ways that you're seeking to outreach to the community?
Oh, absolutely. So, of course, our website, which I know you put up before, I'm going to say it again and probably say it more than once. This is where you can get everything. And that's at www.aarp.org/votersnyc. I know it's at the bottom of your screen, but I'm going to say it again. www.aarp.org/Voters NYC. So on there, you're going to be able to see questions that we ask the candidates. We're also going to be sponsoring a lot of debates and forums. There's information about basic deadlines around voting. People need to know that the primary early voting actually starts on June 10th. So if you have made up your mind, our early voting will be available from June 10th to June 20th. And also, any registered voter can request a mail-in absentee ballot and vote safely from home here in New York, which is really important. The general election, I know, as you've said, is the primary is on June 22nd, and Red Letter Day, November 2nd, is the full election. So that's that. And then I don't know if you ranked choice voting, which is brand new this year, right?
Yes, let's talk about ranked choice voting. So there are a few must-knows for this primary election, and if you can just help us share, more information on that, Beth, it would be very helpful.
So ranked choice voting, which also is known as RCV, for those of you who like those shortened forms. So ranked choice voting, RCV, is very important because you'll be able to rank your top 5 choices, which we've never had a chance to do before. So when you get your ballot, you're going to see it's clearly marked. You check the box for your number 1 choice. You check the box for your number 2 choice. You check the box for number 3, etc., number 4, and number 5. And the reason for that is that if the number 1 choice doesn't get over 50% of the vote, they will then tabulate across the board that second line of second choices. And it could validate the first choice, but it could be somebody else entirely who everybody else said, this is my favorite choice as number 2. And et cetera. That's going to keep going down. Now, the odds are that's not going to happen, but it certainly could happen. I have to say it probably all eyes will be on the New York City election this year because people are really curious how that might work. And I think in city council races, you're going to see it play out in a lot of really dramatic ways. right? But that means the voters have to be so much more educated because they don't just walk in the poll and say, okay, this is my first choice. Although, by the way, I do want to make sure people understand, if you want to go in there and just vote for your first choice and not rank the others, absolutely do that. If you really feel so passionately about one person and you don't want to get involved with the ranking, you may do that, but just know that if they fall short, it's going to be a problem if it goes to second, third, fourth, and fifth choices.
Absolutely. Thank you for those reminders, Beth. And we'll make sure to play our new PSA here on BronxNet. We have a PSA about ranked choice voting that is very informative, and we'll make sure to share that with our viewers right after this segment. But I also wanted to just ask you, Beth, to please just send the message out to our voters 50 plus and the community about the importance of voting and participating in these primary elections coming up on June 22nd.
Well, as I said before, literally, we are going to have a whole new New York City government. 75% of the council seats, but new mayor, new comptroller. We'll end up with a new speaker because the current speaker is terming off. And so the city council members will choose the new speaker for the city council, which is an incredibly important role, the way New York government runs. And then we have the public advocate, which of course we do have an incumbent running on the public advocate line. So we might not have somebody new there.
Right. And finally, Beth, one more time, where can we go to find out more information on the upcoming primary election candidates and more via AARP New York?
Sure. You go to www.aarp.org/votersnyc.
Thank you, Beth, again so much for joining us today and sharing this information.
Really important.
Of course. Beth Finkel is the State Director at AARP NY. Just a reminder, primary election day is on June 22nd. Please don't forget and visit aarp.org/votenyc for more information. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday.